Hi, my name is Matthew Belisario. Welcome to another edition of the Belisario Sonic YouTube channel. Today, the greatest of all time frontmen or singers of rock music. And this is probably one of the hardest rankings I've ever had to do, because with guitar players, it's a little bit easier for me to pick out what I would consider the greatest of all time. And in this case, trying to pick out the greatest frontmen or front women or front person, whatever you have to call them these days. But really the best frontmen, the best guys that not only could sing, but also could grab the audience's attention and really captivate an audience. So this is pretty hard to do for me, because it's like I'm considering the person's voice, I'm considering the band itself, and I'm also considering the actual performance of that person's ability to draw in an audience. So a lot of this is, of course, subjective. Good music is mostly subjective. I mean, I think there are some objective things that come into play, but for example, I might say Linda Ronstadt can sing better than Sheryl Crow, has a better voice, has a better range, better singer, but is she as captivating of a performer, right? So those are the kind of things that came into play with this particular ranking, greatest of all time frontmen women. 20 of them is what I decided to do, and then I decided to do some honorable mentions, and then of course at the end we're gonna go ahead and hit the most overrated. Doesn't mean that the overrated guys aren't good, it just means that they're overrated. I think a lot of people would consider the overrated guys to be better than they actually are. So that's just gonna be my opinion. So let me get started. These are 20 of the greatest of all time frontmen, singers, what have you, in rock music. This does not include metal music, really. I would have really had to pull in from a lot of different places if I was going to go on the whole metal side. So I think that needs to be in its own category, the greatest metal frontmen, women of all time. I think there'll have to be another episode. So this sticks primarily to rock music, and it's not going to be any R&B either. So I'm not going to include Aretha Franklin or the stuff that's on the pop side of the R&B, like Tina Turner, which were phenomenal singers and phenomenal performers. This is going to be sticking mainly right to this rock genre. So I'm going to start off, I'm going from number 1 all the way down to number 20. Number 1 on my list, probably no surprise, Robert Plant. Not much needs to be said. For the time that they were around, which is what 11 years, 12 years, something like that. The guy is able to sing those high notes, was able to captivate an audience and front Led Zeppelin. And then also has had a successful career as a solo artist and is just able to really captivate an audience. He can still sing. And so not much needs to be said. I think Robert Plant gets the all-time frontman of rock music, greatest of all time. Second, I've seen him many times. This dude, Springsteen, can just flat out captivate an audience for 3 hours straight, nonstop. Energy never stops. Whether or not you're a big Springsteen fan or not, I always liked Bruce Springsteen. I always liked his music. Just a intense performer. I would say one of the most intense performers, because the guy is just full on 110% every single concert for 3 hours. And so number 2 goes to the boss. Number 3, guy's been doing this a long time. I wouldn't say he's got the greatest voice, not by a long shot. There's a lot of guys on this list that have a better voice than this guy. But as far as being a front man, I've seen these guys many times. He can get an audience engaged in what else can I say? As far as his singing goes, he can sing. He's got a decent voice, But for the songs that they write and they put together, this guy is really fits the bill as a front man. And so on my last video, when I was talking about guitar players, I put Keith Richards as an overrated guitar player because a lot of times I see him in top 10 lists and he's by no means up there. But he's also another figure that adds into this element because the cigarette hanging out of his mouth and all that stuff does add this stage presence to which Mick Jagger can also play off of. So, but as far as talent goes, this guy's been doing this for a long time now and can still go out there in his 70s and put these young guys to shame as far as putting on a performance. So number 3 goes to Mick Jagger. Number 4, I probably wouldn't have put this guy up there as high, but recently, just watching this video kind of got me back into more of the Queen stuff. And when I listened to his voice, not only as a performer, because he really could get the crowd going and engage the crowd, but wow, his voice and the range of his voice, this guy could sing. And so this guy gets number 4 on my list as the all-time greatest frontman, Freddie Mercury. Number 5. This guy can put on a show too, Elton John. And a great singer. It has a great range. And when you listen to some of his songs and you try to sing them, he's very difficult to cover. He's got a great voice and his presence on stage is pretty iconic. The guy can play, write songs, co-write songs. And I think that, he puts on a great show. And what more can you say? Elton John gets number 5. Number 6. Yes, Steve Perry. Steve Perry, his vocals and his range, of course, puts him in this iconic category because nobody can really cover the guy at his peak, like during this album. They had to go all over the world to find somebody that could actually take his place in Journey. And he does a pretty good job, I must say, but this guy is unique, and this guy really brought Journey to the forefront and was able to just front that band, grab people's attention, and go out there, and his voice just killed it. So I give him number 6 of all time, Steve Perry. Now when it comes to performers, there is one guy, the king, you got to put him in there. And, his later 70s stuff, before he died, he wasn't in the best of health, and some of his shows kind of got a bit gaudy and a lot of medleys and stuff like that. But as far as being able to come up there by himself, because the band is completely separate from him in a sense. I mean, he had great backing bands, but one thing about him was when he came out, people were coming to see him. They weren't coming to see the band. So when Elvis came out there, and this is a great record here, from the NBC TV special, the comeback special. People tuned in from all over the world to see him with this special. They tuned in all over the world the first time from satellite to see him sing. So not much needs to be said. This guy deserves to be on the list, and he is number 7, Elvis Presley. And also a good singer. Again, not the best singer in the world, didn't have the greatest range, but he could sing and he can entertain an audience. And so he gets that spot. Number 7. Number 8, swinging the microphone around, getting down on stage, and just a great voice, great energy. Seen them live, and man, I'll tell you, he could put on a show. And a lot of energy, and has the vocals as well. And of course, The Who with all the great songs. Roger Daltrey gets the number 8 spot on my list. Number 9. This guy, David Bowie. This is the box set I put together of the Brilliant Live Adventures 95 to 99. And it's a 6-record set. And after listening through these over the past year or so, I really just became even more and more of a Bowie fan. And his live performances were always really good. And the guy could put on a show, and he changed and adapted his characters throughout his career. And so, as far as his vocal range goes, it wasn't huge, but he could sing and he can write great songs. And so this guy kind of, for me, is a lot of different facets. You have the performer, you have the vocalist, and you have the songwriter, and then the ability to put together these great bands to go on tour with him. So this guy gets the number 9 spot, David Bowie. Number 10, topping out the top 10 list, and this is primarily just because of this dude's vocals. I've never seen him live. Of course, I've seen him on television, and the guy just somehow captivated you. Didn't have to jump around, didn't have to do all these theatrics, but his voice and his vocal range just absolutely captivates you, in my opinion. So he rounds out the top 10, Roy Orbison. Now, next in line, this guy, again, multifaceted. This is number 11, Sting. Now, he's such an iconic figure. He's got a great vocal range. He can sing. He's a great songwriter, absolutely a brilliant songwriter, in fact, and a great performer, and a great bass player. So this guy, it was hard to really put these guys and rank them because it's there's so much talent here to pick from. And so I wanted to put him in the top 10, and there's just so many good people to put in. But Sting definitely worthy of being on this list of the greatest of all time frontmen. And he's got his career with the Police, and then his solo career, and he's got a lot of material. Number 12, Paul McCartney. Always my favorite Beatle. Great solo career. The guy's vocals were astounding. They've kind of gone downhill a bit since the last couple records I've heard. But when you get 80 years old, you're not gonna be able to sing like you were when you were 30, 40, or even 50. But this guy here, a great entertainer. Of course, he's got that Beatles catalog when he went on tour, as well as doing his solo. Great songwriter. This is number 12, Paul McCartney. Moving down the list, Joe Lynn Turner, Rainbow, did a Deep Purple album, and of course, a good solo career. And the guy could sing pretty much anything. He can, great vocalist. But part of these, iconic part of Rainbow, his solo career, his latest record is absolutely fantastic. His record full of covers, if you've ever heard that, is great. So this guy, to me, is up there, and he gets the number 13 spot, Joe Lynn Turner. Number 14, Geddy Lee. Geddy Lee of Rush. Great vocalist, great songwriter, great bass player, great presence on stage. What more can you say? This guy's got the complete package. I've seen them in concert, and great job at captivating the audience. Of course, with the caliber of players that you've got with Alex Lifeson and Neil Peart, that doesn't help. I mean, that doesn't hurt at all in that stage presence. But Geddy is definitely on my list as one of the greatest of all time. He's number 14. Number 15, the man who first developed the theatrics and brought the whole staged show to life by creating just a whole, just telling a story with these characters, and his makeup and the whole thing. He really just was able to just grab you, and he still does at his age, can go out there and put on a heck of a stage show. As far as his vocals go, are you going to put him as the greatest singer ever? No. But as far as a rock frontman, he makes the list, in my opinion. Great songs as well. He wrote a lot of great songs, surrounded himself with a lot of good people, a lot of creative people, and has continued to give the crowd what they want when you go to see him in concert. So Alice Cooper gets the number 15 spot. Number 16, Ian Gillan. What a great vocalist. I mean, the range of this guy, how he could sing. Of course, this Made in Japan record, one of the great classic rock records of all, live records of all time, but continues to front Deep Purple and has, he can go out there and also put on a show and grab the attention of the audience. But I think I emphasize more than being as aggressive on the stage and actually going out and doing a Mick Jagger type thing. I emphasize his vocal ability at a higher level than a lot of people on this list, and that's why he makes it up onto the greatest of all time list. Number 17, Ann Wilson of Heart. Our only female on this list on the top 20, which again, I went back and started looking and I was like, wow, there's so many good female singers, rock singers, like, man, and when it came to, the people that I've listed already, it was just hard to pick these people. And so I'm gonna have some other ones in my honorable mention list that are really good and just didn't make the list just because there's so many. But Ann Wilson, I've seen her in concert as well. And she puts on a great show and she's got great vocals. I mean, she can really belt it out and sing. So she gets the number 17 spot. Next, one of my favorites and one of my favorite rock bands, number 18, Chris Robinson. I love Chris Robinson. The guy just puts on a great show. The true rock and roller can go out there and just throw down on stage. And a great vocalist, great songwriter or co-songwriter. And so he can really, the Black Crowes are always one of my favorite bands to see live. I've seen them several times and they always delivered and went out there and just really hit you in the face hard and rocked. So Chris Robinson does get the number 18 spot. Next, my last two. I had to put Phil in there. Phil Lynott. I never got to see them live, but I've seen them live on several videos of them live, and this dude just was intense frontman. And when people came to see Thin Lizzy, they primarily came to see him, even though they had great guitar players. But was a great songwriter, wrote most of the songs, and his vocals were really good. I wouldn't consider his range to be the greatest, but for what kind of music, this rock music that they were doing, he was second to none, man. He could just get in there and belt it out. He played bass as well, and he just had this iconic stature on stage that just captivates you and just makes you want to say, yes, this is why I like rock music. And that's number 19. Number 20. This was really hard to do number 20 because there's just like another 20 people that easily could make this list. I had to put Brian Johnson on the list. And just because the vocals are so unique, his stage presence is just like a street fighter coming out, like, bring it on, I'm gonna take you down. He just comes out there with this swagger, and he's got the most unique voice in all of rock music because it's him when he sings. A lot of people might say that this guy can't sing, he's got a raspy voice or whatever, but that's kind of what rock and roll is all about, in my opinion, is being able to go out there and throw down and have this unique voice and, all right, we're going, it just gets out there and rocks and throws down. So number 20 is gonna be Brian Johnson. Now some honorable mentions. And I've got a whole list here, like 20 of them. I'm only gonna give you the first 10 because, there's so many people I could have put on this list. Bono, I put him as an honorable mention with U2. The guy, I've seen him in concert. He really can draw in an audience. Sheryl Crow, she's a great performer, great songwriter. She's got a great voice, and she's just a lot of fun to see in concert. Joan Jett, she also can put on a show, and one of the few really female rock guitar players that just throws down and has that unique voice And so again, any of these people could have been on this list. So Joan Jett's number 3. Eric Clapton, I put him in there. He's a great performer and a great, front man. And with the guitar playing and everything, there's only 2 people that were on the greatest of all time list for guitar players and performers. That's him and Jimi Hendrix. Also, honorable mention. Prince, honorable mention. That dude could put on a show and he can play guitar. And although I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of his music, the guy was very creative and he can really captivate an audience. Chrissy Hynde, I've seen her in concert. Very captivating, very good, a unique voice and a great songwriter, and she can get up there and just throw down as well. Paul Stanley, I put him on the list. You got to give him credit for being able to put on a show. Jimi Hendrix, I mentioned, and last but not least, I'm going to mention a couple more. Rory Gallagher, I put him on there, although he's my favorite guitar player. He's also very captivating and just coming out there and drawing in an audience. And then next, Ian Anderson, I wanted to put him on the list as well because he also could really draw in a crowd and was very unique character on stage. Now, the most overrated in my opinion, and I'm going to hit these pretty quick. Jim Morrison. Not going to knock Morrison's songwriting ability, even his studio work, but as far as a live performer, gosh, he sounded awful a lot of times. And anyway, I think he's overrated. Eddie Vedder, overrated. Janis Joplin, overrated. People are probably going to hate me for that, but I think she was overrated. Don't think she was nearly as good as what everybody made her out to be. Very unique, yes. And you know what? I have to give her credit. She did have this stage presence, but I think she's just overrated. One that I just can't stand, Kurt Cobain. I just can't stand him. There's nothing about him that I like. Nothing. Patti Smith. Don't like her. David Lee Roth. Are you kidding me? Sorry, I'm just not. I was never a big Van Halen fan. Respect Eddie Van Halen's playing. David Lee Roth, yowza, ooh, ow, ee, ow, like he's stepping on thumbtacks or something going across the stage, and he sounded horrible live a lot of times. And last but not least, the lead singer for, what the heck's the band's name? The Led Zeppelin knockoff band. Josh Kitska, with the blouses and all that, and not doing anything for me there. The guy can sing fairly good, but I think he's quite overrated. So, but at least the young kids got rock music to listen to. A younger band, Greta Van Fleet. That's what I was trying to say. At least there is rock music being played, and so you got to give those young guys credit for doing that. So I don't want to just knock him, but I think he's quite overrated. So I think Plant has already done all that in that style. So that's all I got for today. Thank you for joining me. Hit the like button, and we'll see you next time.